Listen to him explain in his own words the fact that he believes this.
Compared himself to Peter the Great just a couple of years ago after the invasion of Ukraine. And when you watch the interview that he did with Tucker Carlson, where the first 35 minutes is dedicated to his idea of Russian claims to Ukraine, in which he actually sort of makes the claim that Russia has claims to Poland and Hungary as well. When he says that sort of stuff, we ought to take that seriously. He's actually spelling out what he actively thinks. Now, there are a bunch of people on the left who think that Vladimir Putin is doing this because he is offended by the muscularity of the West, that if only the West had been more conciliatory toward Vladimir Putin, then Russia would not, in fact, be an adversarial force. And everything that Vladimir Putin does is blowback to the West.
So we did go over this in my last episode, but people are still giving Ben Shapiro's been getting the business for a while now. And so Glenn Greenwald has had about enough. Glenn Greenwald is a man who believes in doing real journalism. Glenn Greenwald is also Jewish. And I know there's like a theme when we keep talking about this thing, right? But this is what I mean about, the difference of people who just are themselves and they don't answer to their quote identity first, because I don't understand what made Ben think that he had the right to get involved with this conversation. And then we're going to also get into how America's losing their mind over Alexei Navalny, a person that we never talked about.
Okay, so there's Ben Shapiro articulating this view that Russia is this expansionist country, that it wants territorial conquest, that it's aimed at Western Europe. Russia has been fighting for 2 years just to hold on to 20% of Eastern Ukraine. That was always Barack Obama's argument, was Russia is not the country that it once was. It's a regional power at best. It has an economy that's smaller than Italy's. Russia doesn't have the capability. Russia is not the Soviet Union from the 1960s and 1970s to go marching through all of Eastern Europe and then into Western Europe. This is...
Exactly. And only a child would play around with serious situations like this. This is not Ben's forte. You can tell it's not. Ben has his own issues, again, like I always say with Russia. But you do not need to involve the American people in that, okay? This whole Russia bad thing is really getting on my nerves. Here's Ben Shapiro explaining his foreign policy or worldview for 15 minutes. The vast majority of Democrats in Congress would agree with every word. We must fight Russia, Ukraine, Islamists in the Middle East, and China. When he says we must fight, he doesn't mean him. And yesterday I didn't even place the whole video in the clip that I made. But let's go ahead and just kind of skip to the end here.
Interest in degrading the Russian military capacity to expand beyond its own borders, threaten shipping lanes, threatening supply resources. Wait, hold up a second. Ukraine, first of all, is an extraordinarily imperfect democracy. Right? The Freedom House score for Ukraine is like 39. Russia is like 7, but Ukraine is like 39. So it's not like an amazing wellspring of democracy. It is a burgeoning democracy at best. And so when you say democracy over and over, Americans are like, well, is that really what Ukraine is about? And then Americans say, well, if that's what Ukraine is really about, then why are we allies with, say, Saudi Arabia? Because Saudi Arabia obviously is not a democracy. By the way, a lot of our allies who are not democracies start to get very nervous when they hear democracy talk coming from Joe Biden, because they're like, okay, so what are you going to Arab Spring us over here?
Okay, they don't get nervous because they know that America peddles the lies about democracy. And I'm just keeping it real. When I say America, I'm talking about American establishments. World leaders know. Who are we? Who are we? American establishment, not the citizens. I want to always make it very clear, not the citizens, to talk about democracy and being so good and rights and everything else, while our government spies on us, gets involved with war crimes overseas and doesn't tell us about it. And when somebody finally comes and tells us about it, they throw him in a jail, okay? And the man hasn't even had his toenails clipped. Free Julian Assange in months. He can't even walk. You know what I mean? Simply because he had a website where whistleblowers could tell the American people what was really going on with their tax dollars. Nobody's fooled by the word democracy when America starts to speak democracy. American establishment, okay?
Seas in these particular areas, it won't affect American citizens in any way. Let me just explain. If shipping starts to be truly endangered the way that it is in the Red Sea, in any of the other areas that I just mentioned, the amount of money that Americans are going to pay is going to be so much larger than whatever checks we are signing to Ukraine. It will make our heads spin.
Let me help Ben out. So Ben does go into the Middle East in this conversation. Let me help him out. So the Houthis, the Yemeni Houthis, yes, they have taken over the Red Sea, but they don't say that Americans can't get their shipping. They don't want Israel to get their shipping because of the situation that's going on in Gaza. Okay? So they made it very clear that they are going to get in the way of Israel getting their supplies. They never said anything about American supplies. The problem is Americans have this thing that they attach Israel to America. Like that's our satellite state over there. It's not. It's not. The problem is that our tax dollars protect Israel so much more than they protect our own home. Now, the Yemeni Houthis definitely have been hard sanctioning Israel to get their supplies. So I'm sure they've been having a hard time getting their stuff. Americans have already been paying a lot of extra money. And with the inflation, Ben doesn't care about that because he's not talking about it. He's more concerned about it going, the Israel situation, because they never said anything about threatening American product. Okay? It's Israel product. So Americans are paying for Navy ships to protect Israel product to go to Israel. Americans are paying for that. Okay? So the food and stuff is going to cost higher because we are overextended militarily. By the way, our Navy has failed the mission already. They can't protect the maritime shipping industries from the Houthis, and so this is why when somebody sits here and wants to play around and start talking about war everywhere else and telling me that you need to care about all X, Y, and Z all the way everywhere else, and you find out that your Navy is having a hard time doing what it's supposed to do and failing missions, we are not in a position to be poking the bear with anybody. Not right now. And look, I'm all about a nice, strong military defense system. Listen, when Trump was president, he said, I got everybody new jets and and the jets were flying and the jets. And I'm like, yeah, the jets. I love American jets. I do. Because I want the strongest defense system possible. But we should not be extended out to the rest of the world and getting involved in things that have nothing to do with us. Those two things can be right at the same time.
If you loved the inflation of the first couple of years of the Biden era, wait until freedom of the seas goes away. It's something that you're going to enjoy. Okay, so in any case, Vladimir Putin knows all of this because all he has to do is just keep pressing. All he has to do is keep pressing. And so he's taking full advantage. He sees the splits and he's exploiting those splits. He's a smart player. Vladimir Putin is a smart geopolitical player who sees foreign policy as a zero-sum game. And no attempt to appease Vladimir Putin through happy talk is going to work. And one of the best ways to maintain your own power is to destroy things like internal property rights and political freedoms. Because if you give property rights, that may lead to the creation of a monetary base from which a threat can mount against you. So Vladimir Putin has been very, very bad for the Russian people. If you don't believe
this is just out of line. It really is. Okay, so that's enough of him. February 24th, 2022, they said Russia invaded Ukraine. The minute I heard that, and I have videos from that day, the minute I heard that, I said, no. What did we do to make that happen? Because we knew it was going to happen. What did we do? Because I never forgot weapons of mass destruction, okay? I'm going to give you a real quick overview, all right? And then I found out that we kept pushing NATO further till they right up in Russia's backyard. Now what do you expect them to do? Love the bombs that are facing him? Absolutely not. I don't know. I don't need to know about a Russian economy and a Russia this. I don't live over there, right? But the fact is, this past 2 weeks, all I've been hearing is Vladimir Putin. And you know why? Because Tucker Carlson went and interviewed him, and he actually didn't look too bad, okay? Which by the way, everything that he was saying, except for the history lesson, which I did appreciate, I expected him to say because I had already been listening to Vladimir Putin's speeches anyway, right? But Tucker goes, he went to go food shopping. People are mad. So this is Ben trying to run cover to remind you that Vladimir Putin is a bad guy. Listen, okay? It doesn't work on me. It doesn't. All of a sudden, everybody cares about, like I said, Alexei Navalny. They're saying that everything is just being blamed on Putin. Everything is. I have my own problems here. I have a government that's been infiltrated. Okay, so I can't deal with whatever Ben thinks that I should be dealing with here. You see, Glenn Greenwald, who's telling you about this, right? You know that he's actually reporting to you from like Brazil. He can't come here because he told some truth about 9/11, about the Patriot Act. Okay, this is democracy. All right, stop playing with me, Ben. Stop playing with me. People aren't feeling Ben Shapiro. They're really not. They about had it with Ben and his war hawkish ways. Nobody goes, we can't go to war, Ben. We can't.